Let's see. Are we rolling? All right. I see the red box and the ticker is ticking. Welcome everyone to another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. As I always smile. Let's see. Margot wants to come on in. Tell her to keep trying. It's still telling her that the device is not connected, the microphone. But as I always smile and laughing at myself, you write this book about coaching. It's for coaches, and it's really valuable for aspiring and emerging coaches, maybe even coaches that have been around the block a few times, to get something out of this. And I just have to laugh, myself included. I think this is as much mentoring as it is memoir. It's as much like viability. It's viable as a corpus of content that would help an aspiring or emerging coach as it is vulnerability. Right? Like, I'm remembering fondly all of the things that I went through over my 15, 16, 17 years at this vertical. And, it's just fun to go through all of this. So as a matter of background, I can tell you that it started here with Get a Clue in 52, 5 categories, about 10 tips in each category, 2 extra tips in the marketing section. And there we go. There's Margot. All right. Very cool. Hi, Margot. You made it. Yay. So I'm just doing my preliminaries here. Yeah. And thank you, Tom, for your support there in the community that we've got. I love all of the support that I'm feeling. So thank you. Happy Friday, everybody. So the first edition of Get a Clue in 52, this is the one that had all the mistakes in it. And, done is better than perfect. I was, happy to get a book done. But as I read each tip on Sunday nights in 2020, a very challenging year for everybody, I found all of the mistakes, including like misspelling my own name and all kinds of other things that I wish I was joking, but it's true. Anyway, so I cleaned all of that up, but I had streamed all of those recordings into my Facebook group, Get a Clue in 52. So next thing I know, there's 400, 500, 600, 700 people in the Facebook group, and there's 52 recorded videos streamed into there. Then I cleaned it up and came out with this much more nicely formatted, better edited, etc. Version. You can see the 5 categories there: accountability, marketing, communication, networking, and sales. There's extra 2 tips in marketing. So I have a year's worth. That's the whole concept of these Get a Clue in 52 tips books, right? Is put 52 in there. You have a year's worth, and it's a great viable reason to come online and stream. So then in 2021, what I did was I read every tip from the same book again, but I streamed into my YouTube channel, Watch Get a Clue, all one word. Maybe I'll type that in a little bit later after preliminaries. Watch Get a Clue to my YouTube channel. Then next thing I know, I get over 400 subscribers on the YouTube channel. It's not a lot by comparison to these gurus out there, but it was more than what I had, and it's still a good number, and it's viable, right? So now I've got 52 recordings of these tips in my Facebook group, 52 recordings of these tips in my YouTube channel. Then a client of mine said, Jeff, I'm working on my tips book also. Can you collaborate with me and help me out and give me some input and some, So I was really proud of supporting people on this book, Give Your Way to the Top, 52 tips. He read these every Tuesday night, and starting in 2021, it went into 2022. And then he got done reading his tips, and I got done reading my tips, and we were, well, what do we do now? We were both like walking around in circles, because I would read on Sunday nights and he would read on Tuesday nights. So I said, well, why don't we do another Get a Clue in 52, but we'll do the Entrepreneurs Edition. We'll do it in each of our brandings. We'll just tweak a couple things, different ISBN numbers. We'll put me in the first person on this version. We'll put you in the first person on this version. It'll be a fun project, co-branded. And then I'll read into my group on Tuesday nights from 8 to 8:30. And then we'll get back on and read into your Facebook channel from 8:30 to 9. So now we just had a lot of fun with the collaborative, co-branded, and it kept the Get a Clue in 52 thing rolling. And then I did come out with this little thing called the Integrity Game that I'm proud of, but this is a parable book. It's not the tips book that we're talking about today with this series. So I got towards the end of last year and I said, well, what kind of a Get a Clue in 52 book am I going to write for 2023 so that I could keep it going? And my commitment to myself was to populate LinkedIn this year. So I adopted StreamYard, and now I can stream into all 3: my Facebook channel, my Facebook, my YouTube, and now LinkedIn. So here we are. What I chose was Get a Clue in 52 for coaches. And I was thinking of Margot about HR. Like you can come up with 200 tips for HR easily, like that. And you could categorize them. And HR is such a robust. I bet we can come up with 4 books of Get a Clue in 52 tips that are all for HR professionals.
Okay,
right?
You heard it here, people.
Okay,
I
just think we could do it, and I think we could do it like that, and I think we could have a lot of fun. But the reason I chose Get a Clue in 52 for coaches is because I found myself on the board of California Coaches last year, which was started in Santa Cruz with its mission of helping aspiring and emerging coaches grow their practices. And that led to a merger effort with the San Diego Professional Coaches Alliance, formerly known as, currently the Professional Coaches Alliance, and currently known as the new PCA, because we've got this merger going. And so I welcome Dr. Tom Teague and Margot Garcia from the Professional Coaches Alliance. Thank you for this support. So I thought, if I'm going to be online every single week, populating into LinkedIn, where's my synergy? Where's my leverage? How can I make that matter? How can I make that more meaningful? How can that have a bigger ripple effect? And it made sense to me to choose 52 tips that are about building a coaching practice, right? So we're in the category right now of self-promotion. That's the first category. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move on in our second category a little bit later on this year to engagement enrollment. After we've self-promoted, how do we then get people from interested to paying clients, right? How do we develop our book of business? Then we're going to move on to a section on motivation. How do we motivate our clients? That's more coaching skill per se. It deviates a little bit from the PCA mission, but I'm trying to be comprehensive inside my own work here. How do we motivate clients? Then a section on how do we hold clients accountable? And then finally, at the end, is practice building, 12 tips on practice building. And I have a lot of fun with my stream of consciousness writing style and at the end of the book, 12 tips, right? Like to the theme of 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99. So it goes like that. It's like 12 accountabilities on the wall, 12 accountabilities. You take one down and pass it around. Do you still want to build a coaching practice? Anyway, it's very fun. Very, 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 very fun. And so that's what we're all about here on Friday. We're doing this 9 a.m. every Friday, except I'll tell you guys next weekend, March 3rd, there's going to be time changes. I might have to shift to a noon time or something like that, but just pay attention for the posts and the calendar invites, because there's going to be some tweaks. I've got a meeting with the dean at San Diego State next Friday at 9 a.m. So that moves that. And then on the 3rd, I've got a one-day event at a conference that I'm leading a keynote and 4 rotational workshops. So that's going to be a conflict, and I'll make the adjustments. So heads up there. All good news. Now, having said all of that, let me quickly get into this particular edition, right? Welcome to Get a Klu in 52 for Coaches, myself included. The book is dedicated to my family. And if you had my family, you dedicate your books to them too. Trust me. All right. And I want to shout out to a founder and friend, founder and CEO of Simpluris, and just a good guy. Grew up in personal professional growth. So when a guy like that, who's been to all the seminars, read all the books, heard all the tapes, he even drove speakers back and forth to events from conferences just to get extra time with them. Very savvy about his consumption of personal professional growth. When a guy like that writes you forward, you give a tip of your cap to that every single time. So thank you for Troy. And then, like I said, the first section that we're in is self-promotion. So we have about 9 tips, I think in this section. And tip number 1 was start. You got to start somewhere. Start calling yourself a coach. Then tip number 2 is only call yourself a coach when it's relevant, right? We only get excited that we're a coach, but not so excited that we tell people when it's just not relevant or viable or meaningful for them. We don't want to get too lost in that excitement, although it's just so exciting to learn how to coach. So I get it. I've been there. I've done that. All right. Tip number 3 is don't just call yourself a coach. And I fell in love with this Kluby snack that when people put the word just in front of something, it's a sign of weakness at best, minimization most probably, and flat out lying at worst. So just to the linguistics of the word just, don't have your tail between your legs. Remove just from any time that you're tempted to say just and see how much more powerful you get. That's just the communication piece, which is one of my competitive advantages as a coach. But the other thing too is that we're more than a coach. We're always more than a coach. There's always, this is the quote, we're always more than a coach. We're stuff before we were a coach and now we're a coach, or now that we're a coach, if we stay in the game long enough, we're going to become other stuff too, like speakers, writers, trainers, consultants, etc. So stop calling yourself a coach. Expand that menu and say, I have a practice. Like people say, Jeff, what are you? I don't say I'm a coach. I say I'm a soft skills guy. And here's my menu. Coaching's on there, consulting's on there, training's on there, speaking is on there, info products are on there, right? So we're always more than a coach. And then tip number 5 was to get super honest about your why. And I fell in love with this Kluby snack with ... It finishes a longer sentence, but the snack part of it is because every other answer to any other question depends on our honest answers to questions of purpose. And there was a couple of other Klubi snacks in that chapter. It was robust. And I remember, Margot, you were sharpening my saw in that conversation that we had on that chapter. So now it's like even more near and dear to my heart. But this one is, the truth is we become a coach because we want to make money either in addition to or in place of how we are currently making money, and keep the tongue in the cheek and the smiles on the face on that one. And then the truth is, bottom line is, we all want meaningful work with a monetized skill set that allows us to be ourselves and call our own shots. Even if you have an employer, even if you have a corporate job, is it monetized skill set? Is it meaningful work? Do you get to be yourself? Do you get to call some shots? Right? That's a really neat, measure, if you will, of engagement and passion about work. And then that took us to last week when we talked about get super confident about your what. And it's like we must welcome this transition from self-promotion to solution promotion. So we're in the self-promotion section, but at some point we need to get over ourselves and start talking about the solutions we provide in ways that are meaningful, in the ways that are speaking to the listening of the people that are in pain or seeking opportunity that we can usher them to or from. So that brings us to today. All right. Well, I take a deep breath before I read today's tip. Let me go ahead and ask you guys to say hello and thank you for taking the time to be here. Sue from Australia, Tom and Margot, do you guys have anything to say by way of hellos before I get into today's tip? Word for word, I'll be reading tip number 7 today. Thank you.
And I'll be reading right along with you.
Oh, yeah. All right. I love
I got my copy too.
All right. Hey, cheers. Woohoo. All right. Thank you, guys. It warms my heart. I'm like a kid in a candy store. Here we go. Page 39, feeling fine. Tip number 7, get parentheses professionally and parentheses intimate with your who. All right. That was the HR pause there. Margot, did you feel it?
No, I did.
Professionally intimate. All right. Here we go. The harder we worked in tip number 6, the more success we will have here with tip 7, which is to develop what I'm calling professional intimacy with our ideal target market. By working hard, I mean going beyond or deeper than the sample questions I offered to make the point. For example, here are a couple more what questions that get us closer to our who. What counts as pleasure and pain for our ideal client? What are the situations and issues our ideal client faces daily, weekly, monthly, annually? What is it like to be our ideal client? We can go even deeper with questions that can help us develop intimate knowledge of our ideal clients. But now I think you get it. The irony of this self-promotion tip is that you are not really promoting anything about yourself other than how well you know the people you want to hire. Let me take a sip of water real quick. I don't know what happened there for me, but for some reason that last tip hit me heavy. I'm going to reread it again and see if I have the same kind of emotional reaction. That was kind of interesting. The irony of this self-promotion tip is that you're really not promoting anything about yourself other than how well you know the people you want to hire you. In public speaking, this is called audience analysis. And in marketing courses, you may hear terms like buyer persona or client avatar that we must develop to avoid spray and pray promotional failures. A metaphor I like to use when training or coaching on marketing communication is be the animal, quote unquote. To be clear, I'm a nonviolent person. I say things like feed 2 birds with 1 grain, quote, end quote, instead of the popular alternative. I am a very loving person. I say things like some people go for the jugular, but I go for the hugular. That said, I have not come up with anything better than the hunting reference of be the animal to summarize this tip. I explain it like this. The best hunter isn't the person with the best ammo, camo, truck, gun, location, or other devices. It isn't the person who is trying to be the best hunter at all. The best hunter is the one who is trying to be the animal, the one who studies the animal, learns its habits, patterns, tendencies, the one who learns how and when it rests, preys, plays, explores, or moves at all, and so forth. It is the unending quest to know the animal as if to be the animal that might put the hunter 1/2 step ahead of the animal. And that is what will make the best hunter. The same with self-promotion. The greatest thing we could promote. The same with self-promotion. The greatest thing we can promote about ourselves to our ideal prospects is how well we truly and deeply understand them. Personally, I aim to be the biographer of my target client, to know and to study them so well that I can literally write their story. Professional intimacy, then, is the totality of knowledge, understanding, love, awareness, empathy, and biographical skills we have for our ideal target clients. The most valuable thing about myself that I can promote to a prospect is not how well I know myself, but how well I am willing to work to know them. All right. Not sure why I got like heavy emotional feelings reading that tip. Somebody help me out. Is it because of the honesty or the courage or the work? Is it because that was just so well written? Why am I having such an emotional reaction to what I was just trying to read? Does anybody know?
Yeah, you got really raw there when you were reading it. I think it has to do with reflection on your intimate relationships with your own clients, that you've gone there.
Yeah, I think it's related to empathy. You know, like you listed empathy on one of your sentences, but I really feel like as a coach, that's one of the strongest services we can provide is to be fully empathetic to the people we work with, and to be good listeners, and to, as you say, to be like them, to be with them, maybe. So yeah, I think it's about connection.
Yeah.
So
and seeing the client clearly as they are, probably more so than they're even willing to see themselves.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a basic human need. We all want to be seen for who we are.
That may be part of it, because I have so much gratitude for the ways that I've been seen in these opportunities that I've had to prove people right. I'm communicating that vibe and sentiment a lot lately about the appreciation that I have over the years, when people have said, "Oh, you can do this," and I'm like, "What? I could do what?" And then you get to prove them right. Sue, let me appeal to you for a little bit, because you've seen me, in other continents. I've traveled the world, and you have a huge grasp of the corpus of clientele and professional experience and the ways that I've put myself into my service providing. Did you pick up on me choking up while I was trying to read that? Please. And what say you about that? And is there more in this tip for the rest of us than just me and how I got choked up? Is there something in there for the rest of you? Let's hear from you, Sue.
There's a few levels, I guess, that come to mind in responding to that. One is the actual coaching relationship, having been coached by you, myself.
Yeah.
And you live this tip in your coaching, and you frame your questions in such a way that it invites a relationship, but you're one step ahead. And it's like you open up a window for the person to step through or into that is revealing. It can be confronting, but it's truth. And it's incredible skill that you have developed. And in doing that, there's this trust, there's a feeling of safety. And so that's one level in the actual coaching relationship. One thing that I've always noticed then from a training perspective too is that it's never, you're not teaching like it's out there. You're not teaching an acquiring of knowledge. It's about being. Who are you being?
Yeah.
I think that is where the reaction's coming from. It is so much about how we show up, making sure that we've done the work ourselves. And so we're showing up as a better person. in that coaching relationship.
Yeah. I didn't see this one coming, you guys. Like, but thank you for that, Sue. I mean, that was so beautiful to listen to. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say for anybody that's late to the party. We're doing Get a Clue in 52 for coaches, myself included. And there's there's a German philosopher, I think Erich Fromm, wrote the book To Have or To Be, right? And that stuck with me early on, and it's interesting to be at this phase in life. I mean, why am I involved as heavily as I am, or as committed as I am in Professional Coaches Alliance through California Coaches? Like, I know I'm at a place in my life where it's like I can really kick it into another gear of what I have to give to others, right? Because I can be this person's B. But I didn't see this coming in this tip. I thought Friday, let's be jovial, let's have some jokes, let's throw a Clue stack out there. But whammo, it got me. Margot, Tom, what else? Will you guys have any other? Let's free flow it a little bit.
I mean, I love what Sue was saying, because it's that's the definition of ontological coaching, right? It's about who we are being, and you nailed it. And Jeff lives it. So,
well, it's so funny. Here's the funny part, right? I got all these like Clue snacks to skip over, but I might as well go straight to my promotion right now of online office hours, which is group mentoring with myself. Like, what better time than right now to then promote? Like, I'm doing this free every week, no problem. But if you want to go deeper and roll up your sleeves, what do I call going deeper? Of course, Sue knows it. It's Cluba diving, right? If you want to go Cluba diving and get into online office hours, where in support of it's the being, it's our own structural integrity. It's making sure we retrofit ourselves. And the group mentoring that I'm promoting, it's half off right now. It's going up to $100 a month. Right now it's $50 a month. We do 3 live sessions every month, but they're private. And then there's over 100 recordings, archives. So you have access to all of the archives of me coaching and mentoring and training on the engagement, the motivation, the accountability that I built my career on. It's the mentoring formerly known as the Get a Clue mentoring. Now it's the Integrity Game. Everything's rebranded Integrity Game. And it really, what you heard Sue say is probably the best endorsement for my group mentoring sessions that you can imagine, right? And Sue, if you have anything to say about the experience that you've had being a paid member of group mentoring, now's the time, and it's not really shameless. I think we've earned the right to promote this a little bit. But there's the link, and I think the funnel is built, and I could screen share and kind of show you guys what it looks like, but I'd rather hear Sue's voice on this one.
What I love about the group mentoring is, again, it's not only about the training opportunities, but the training comes through the being. And when certainly there have been many, many times where through a willingness to be coachable, be a role, step into a role, I've been able to be coached on the spot and grow, again, be challenged, confronted, through that process, learning how to be a better coach. But I've grown at the same time, and I think that's what I love about those sessions, is that through the process of being, you learn, and it's the two together.
Well,
which
I gotta
makes it
give
so
props.
powerful.
Yeah, props to you. By the way, of all of the people that we've had in group mentoring, and I've been doing it for a couple of years now. That's why I've got over 100 recordings of archives, and they're organized, like mentoring on how do we get people engaged, mentoring on how do we get people motivated, mentoring on how do we hold people accountable, and all of the subsets in between, from behavioral assessments to enrollment engagement to winning the enrollment conversations to a lot of the stuff that there's a lot of the stuff that's in this book. We mentor on it, right? Even though this book is tip form, on and on. But Sue leads the pack. I mean, like, absolutely hands down is like, she's not the only vulnerable person in the group, but the most willing to, when it's time for role playing and everything, she's the one that's willing to be coached. And she plays full out. She's not making up scenarios just to give somebody else coaching practice. She's bringing it, and she puts it all out there. And that's one of the reasons she gets so much out of it. So whether it's my group mentoring or anything in life, we're going to get out what we put in. But let me just throw the banner up. Today's tip is tip number 7 from the self-promotion section. Get professionally intimate with your who. And we got a couple more minutes. I'm in no hurry today, actually, but just want to continue to facilitate good dialogue. What any comments or questions on this tip or any of the others that we've covered so far in the book, or the book overall, or anything that you want to self-promote, Margot or Tom, or anything else from Sue?
No, I just want to say that that's why we call this a practice, right? Because it is a situation for myself where I'm continuously learning, where I continuously try and hone my skill, my tool. And it's a practice. So it's an ongoing journey about getting better at your craft.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges, I think, of this tip, right? With the beauty, we saw the beauty. We all got the beauty and the brilliance of the tip. Okay, right? There's not enough Kleenex at my desk for that anymore. All right, but anyway, the challenge of this tip, though, is for the aspiring and emerging. I remember when I was at the point in my career where I'll coach anybody. Everybody, because I know how to coach. And there's still a lot to be said about that, right? Because there's this debate in the industry that we can get into about, well, I only want getting coaching from somebody who's done it. Well, it's like if somebody's making $1 million doing it, they're going to keep making $1 million doing it. They're not going to come down to $150 an hour to coach you how to do it, right? Unless they've systematized and they have other business model. If that, right? So the idea, if you know how to coach, you can coach anybody. But the idea is we have to get into focus on our client.
Right.
You follow? There's the need to, I need to get revenue. I need to get revenue. I need to prove that this works. I need to start getting some revenue because I'm building a coaching practice. I told my wife that I was just 8 months away from making money as a coach once I took this training. So I got to make some. So now, do you have a pulse? Do you need some coaching? Do you have a pulse? Do you need some coaching? And that's not taking the time to be the animal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you follow? That's the challenge.
And for me, it was a no-brainer because I had coached inside my HR, role inside organizations. So I knew my audience. I knew who I could support and help because I got I got their situation. And I think that's one of the things that continues to help me be successful is that I understand the situation and the challenges of the folks that I'm working with.
Well, I think
and they know I know.
Yeah, I think in your case is the icon for. Let me just say this. Remember, we're always more than a coach. Usually, ideally before we become one. Okay, right? Ideally, before we become one, we're already something else. That way we bring a professional equity into that new house. Does that make sense? Like we're paying mortgage here. If I wanted to live someplace else, I wouldn't just walk away. I'd sell it, take the equity with me. So hopefully we're bringing some equity into this coaching thing. That's number one. Why? Because then people will know us for something already. People will already know what problems we can solve. Then this quest of knowing our animal becomes easier because the animal already knows that we know them. Like if you have a 30-year career as an HR professional in corporate, then there's not an executive under the sun that doesn't know that you know. Right? Okay, so there's still hope for. This is so funny. Oh my God. Are we going live? I forget. I feel like you're just in my room with me. I'm going to say it though, just to be myself and to be silly because, part jovial, but hear the truth in all of this. Who I worry about are the people who they're trying to let, coaching save them, that they're not bringing anything to the game. And they think that becoming a coach is actually going to define or save them. There's still hope for them. Because you can still learn how to coach, you can still learn how to build a coaching practice, you can still develop a subject matter expertise and competitive advantages in a niche within that. But it's a more challenging road than when you're bringing professional equity to the game, learning how to coach and adding that to your totals, etc. So it's not hopeless, but I'm a big fan of the corporate professionals that decide, I've earned a lifestyle. I still want to help people. I'm not done. I'm bringing an acumen, and it should be a hot knife through warm butter for you. You deserve it to be a hot knife through warm butter for you, but you're not scarcity driven, trying to build this practice and ready to just like coach anything that moves.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I will have to tell you, there was one guy in my coaching program, a 24-year-old kid, right out of college, just not really any professional work experience.
Uh-huh.
But he was so intuitive. He was so sensitive. He just had this ability to like jump into your soul. He was amazing, and today he's an amazing coach.
Yeah.
But I also sort of came in with the idea that, well, the experience you have in life will help support your coaching business because it gives you a broader perspective. But this kid, he was just innately really good.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, like, again, it's not, I was being jovial, it's not impossible, and I say there's still hope, only to like say I prefer, I would prefer if it was me, like, what did I bring into coaching? I brought a master's of communication into coaching. I brought, Professor Jeff, all those years in the classroom or whatever, right? I brought, that was a competitive advantage that served me. And at other times I felt along the way at times that, like, who am I to be coaching? There's all kinds of times where I've coached people that I thought had accomplished so much more than I ever could, or I ever did, or I wasn't. I remember in real time, like, am I going to be able to continue to understand this person when they get into speaking about their professional specifics? Am I going to be able to stay with? And you know what I mean? I've been vulnerable or tail between my legs in that situation before. What I came to realize is what I do know is coaching. I know how to get people engaged. I know how to get people motivated. I know how to hold people accountable. And the business doesn't change. What are you selling? Who are you selling it to? How do they know they can buy it? What are you doing to convert them from interested to on board? How do you give them what they've paid for? How do you account for all of it? And how do you stay out of trouble? Right? So business doesn't change, right? And if we as coaches can learn how to ask good questions, we don't need to know anything. We just need to know how to ask good questions. So I'm a big fan of all of that, especially if we have empathy, like Tom was talking about earlier. Tom, you mentioned like one of the most important qualities for a coach to have is empathy. Can you want to elaborate on that or add to where we're at in the conversation now?
Well, I think it's, to build on what you were saying about the skills of coaching, you don't necessarily have to have the skills that your client has. Well, all you need is a good ability to listen and to ask good questions and to help them explore what they're seeking. Mm-hmm. So then, that's where empathy comes in too, is because there's that, if you're listening, if you're really hearing and you're echoing back to them what you're hearing, sometimes when you echo back with your perspective from your life experiences or whatever,
they hear themselves differently.
They get a new insight, even though you may not be expert in their field or whatever. So I think it's important to realize that we can coach people with coaching skills, but we don't have to have their skills.
Or experience.
Either.
Yeah, and I'm looking to see if I can find it really quickly, but I saw and I just want to see if I thought I had taken a screenshot of it. Maybe I didn't, but I saw it on LinkedIn. It was a neat distinction that was made between coaching and mentoring and one other form of a relationship that would overlap, right? But there's an important distinction, important line to draw. So that's how I put it out there is in mentoring. And that's why I have, it's like, if you want to learn how to coach the way that I coach, now I'm going to mentor you, right? I'm going to teach you how to do it exactly the way I do it. Now, all of my experience matters to you. Like, that is exactly what you want to tap in. You want to shadow me or use my templates or plug into my stuff or like, let me mentor you along the way. So like, but coaching you is me supporting you to get whatever you want to do, whether I've done it or not. Yes. Mentoring is helping you be able to do what I've done. Coaching is being able to help you do whatever you want to do, whether I've done it or not. Right. That's the split for me categorically. And they're both worth paying for. Right. And they're both important, but there's a distinction.
So the mentor is kind of in an advisory position, whereas a coach is more of draw people out, have them draw from their own wisdom by asking good questions and being a good listener, when they're talking to you.
If I remember right, I think the third category of person was like an advocate or a champion. And like it was positioned in the infographic, like coaches like kind of here at your level, mentors a little higher, right? Advisory. And the champion, like, it's like somebody that's way up that is like doing everything they can to puppeteer opportunity for you and advocacy for you at a even higher level than that direct mentoring or that direct coaching. Margot, what say you on this?
I do believe that there's truth to the notion that you need to have done work on yourself, though, so that what did I learn? In my coaching program, they used to say you can't take a client someplace you haven't been. So in other words, if you've got some unresolved issues around relationships or unresolved issues around, I don't know, your parents or whatever, and then your client comes up with that same situation, you're going to not be able to be as neutral and coach-like, because it's going to trigger stuff that you have unresolved. So that's one of the reasons they always said that a coach should have a coach, right? Because you need to have done the work so that you are free then of those things, so that you can truly be there for your client. You can be neutral and that full listening and present without having to sort of stop your inner voice from talking about your own shit,
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We're talking about tip number 7 today, and we're letting the conversation go where it wants to. I'm here supported by Sue and Margot and Tom. We're in Get a Klu 52, tip number 7. And I think that, one of the interesting approaches that we can discuss as a technique to become more professionally intimate with your who is the vulnerability of finding the right times to share our own story. And so, in other words, multiple in that name of multiple paths to the same destination, one path might be to say, "Ooh, you know what? I have a trigger to that very issue. I may not have resolved this. So, you know what? I have to refer you to my colleague coach over here, or this is an area where you're not going to be able to depend on me for help." That's one way to just know that, hey, this is something I'm dealing with, and I have had success through another path, which is wearing it on my sleeve and saying and going into that honesty and saying, hey, you want to know what? You're talking about something that I'm not sure I've resolved. And I say that because this, and this. Now I can tell you subjectively, boom, boom, boom. And were I to work this out with my coach, I would be asking these questions here and checking my reality measures on these beliefs and these hurts, right? So that's, now if you can learn anything from that, now let's, and see where they're at with, maybe they'll get a little closer, maybe a little bit more willing to share. And maybe me getting it out there is allowing me to compartmentalize it. And then it maybe helps me in the process. And then you get this thing that had me welled up at the beginning when I'm talking about really dancing with my clients, like in a really vulnerable way, to reduce the distance of emotional engagement that I have with them, because the closer they are to me emotionally, the more coaching technique I have permission to wield in support of their growth. So however vulnerable I need to be in the process is kind of what chokes me up about all of this, right? And it's just another path. Right. By the book, they'd say arm's length, right? And you're the coach. And, I don't know, I just love is the adhesive. And,
I kind of agree with that. I think, and getting back to the tip of the day about being more professionally intimate, I think it's important to be vulnerable yourself and share things that are relevant in your own life. It may have value, but it also, it may have value for the client working through their situation, but I think it definitely has value for creating stronger connection between you and your client.
It's kind of like a fringe benefit of the job, right?
Yeah.
Like, Like, wait a second. I go, you guys know, of course, I'm back at San Diego State, and one of the fringe benefits is I get an office. Like, okay, right on. Right. And so one of the little fringe benefits of coaching is I get to process my own shit. All right. So anyway, sometimes I get to work on myself, right? Like, isn't it funny? Like, we all do work that has some relationship to the work that we want for ourselves. I want more integrity for myself. That's why I wrote The Integrity Game. I want to be a better coach. That's why I wrote this book. I love you guys. Last call for comments, questions on a silly happy Friday with all kinds of range of emotion and tons of gratitude in my heart for the support that I get from you guys showing up and hanging out with me on Fridays. Last call for comments, questions, jokes, expressions of gratitude, or otherwise.
I think for me, the talking about being the animal in this tip helps us to better relate to the things that Margot and Tom are saying. It helps us to be more empathetic to our client. It gives us that ability to see where we fit into the picture personally, but maybe provide some distance in terms of not getting caught up in where our own gaps might be and still be there for the client. So all of that is interrelated.
Never mind the like communication rhythm of how this paragraph on page 40 is written. Like I just, the wordsmithing, the visual, the best hunter isn't the person with the best ammo, camo, truck, gun, location, or other devices. It isn't the person who's trying to be the best hunter at all. The best hunter is the one who's trying to be the animal, the one who studies the animal, learns its habits, patterns, tendencies, the one who learns how and when it rests, preys, plays, explores, and moves at all, and so forth. It is the unending quest to know the animal as if to be the animal that might put the hunter one half step ahead of the animal. And that is what will make the best hunter. I mean, I love how that writing, I mean, never mind everything you said. I mean, in addition to, right? Like, it was worth a reread, in my opinion. All right. Thanks for letting me humor myself. We're in last call for comments, questions, expressions of gratitudes, or jokes. Tom.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to be grateful for you, Jeff, for doing this. I think this is a really great discussion. And I want to just observe that this is a little micro community here, just the four of us. And as a way to introduce the plug for the Professional Coaches Alliance, because that's what we are. We're a community of coaches, and we're here to support each other. And to help all of our members create thriving businesses for themselves so they can have their positive impact in the world. So just a little plug for Professional Coaches Alliance. It's this community, but bigger, more people. So.
And Sue, on Monday, let me go back to my calendar. Next Monday, the 13th. No, that was February. Monday, the 13th of March. We have a speaker. Who's going to speak? Oh, I think it's Mitchell. Is it March? Yeah, Mitchell Levy on credibility. So if you're interested and can join us in the middle of the day, I know that's around the world, so it's probably the middle of the night, but just wanted to offer that. It's going to be a good session.
I'm not gonna commit her to showing up, but I will proudly tell you that Sue has gotten up at like 3 a.m. for my group mentoring at times, right? So if you're interested to know what she will get up at 3 a.m. for, check out group mentoring for a limited time. It's half off right now. We're going to jack it up to $100 a month right now, $50 a month for 3 live sessions with me and the other folks that are involved. I mean, I've been doing this for years and I haven't really promoted it publicly until like today. This is the first time I've actually like publicly put it out there. So it's very intimate right now, which means you get a lot of one-on-one time. If you join now, it's still half off what it's going to be, on and on and on. I'm serious about Klu's Ooze online office hours in support of the coaching and leadership training material. So that's more mentoring rather than coaching, but there's a lot of role played and case study coaching that takes place in the session.
Jeff, I have to tell you that what you've done with the Klu and the everything Klu thing is just fabulous. I've been racking my brain to see what rhymes with Garcia, and it's just I'm
well,
it's just not the same.
Yeah, you'd have to become a drug dealer and go to the Garcia Pharmacia or something. I don't know. I don't know, like the real drugs, the hypothalamus drugs. I make people feel so good. It's the Garcia Pharmacia. That's the best I got so far. No?
No, right. But yeah, keep going.
Thank you. I'm gonna quit. Well, it's like, no, thank you very much. Don't forget to tip your server. 2 shows nightly. Anyway, all right. Thank you guys so much. I love you. Happy Friday. Thank you. We'll see you next week for tip number 8. And have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.